It's 9:02. I think we can begin. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Podman Desktop Community Meeting, May 28th, 2026. We have a few presentations lined up for you guys. To begin with, today's agenda is to go over the new Hummingbird extension and go over some improvements with accessibility and design systems, and a couple of general updates. So, I believe, Axel, do you want to take over, share your screen?
Yes, I can.
Right.
Um, so I'm gonna share my screen. It's gonna be easier. So is my screen visible?
Uh, yeah, now it is, yes.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the Hummingbird extension. So the Hummingbird project, yeah, missing description. That's a good issue. So the Hummingbird extension is the integration of the Hummingbird project inside Podman Desktop. So the Hummingbird project is a way to is a project which provides zero CVE images or hardened images um, for containers. So the goal is to get more secure and more reliable images rather than using some of them, which has a lot of bloat. When you try to start a new project, when you want to use a base image, which is either for building or for production, it's pretty hard to know what's inside the image. And the Hummingbird project aim to help on that topic. So it will add a new entry. So once installed, the Hummingbird extension on Podman Desktop will add a new entry. Um, the we have a catalog, so you can explore the list of all the Hummingbird image available. So the most well-known container project are here. You can find curl, you can find .NET, Go, Git, and so many more. Uh, NJX, Postgres, Node.js. You usually have two versions for every Hummingbird image. You have the base image and the builder image, which usually have more things. Like for example, for the Node.js image, uh, you have the production image, which only have like the minimum requirements to run a Node.js application. And you have the builder image, which just differ with the tags. But the builder tag has more things inside it because usually you need more dependencies and more uh, things to build your application. So from this page, you can for example take one example and you can pull it. Or if you want to have more information and you want to directly access it inside the official page on the registry, you can directly navigate there. So this is great, but from here it's just a catalog. And one nice feature that has been integrated into this extension is the ability to scan your local registry. So a catalog can be just a web page, so you would not need to have it inside Podman Desktop or as an extension. But because it's running inside Podman Desktop, it can scan your local environment. And for example, it can detect if you are using images that could be hardened / replaced by a Hummingbird version. So for example, here, I've got a few containers. I've got a Postgres container and a NGX container uh, based on Docker IO images. And the extension is telling me, okay, those containers have alternatives, but you can also see that it scans the images in my registry, also offering me alternatives, but you cannot really replace an image, or you could just delete the older one and use a new one. But let's open, for example, some details. We're going to take the NGX one, so we can open the details. So looking a bit at here, you have some statistic and some information about the base image that you are using. So here, the Docker IO NGX versus the Hummingbird one. You've got the list of CVEs detected inside the Hummingbird image versus the vulnerabilities inside the Docker IO NGX image. So how does those vulnerabilities are detected slash scan? For the local images, we are using an open source project called Gripe, which allows us to directly scan locally without externalizing your image, the vulnerabilities. So those information are directly scanned live on your machine. And the one from the Hummingbird images are took from a database online, because you may not have the alternative locally on your system. We just fetch it online and the database is updated every day. So this information is always fresh because vulnerabilities can appear every day. Another thing with the hardened images is that because we remove a lot of things inside it, usually they are smaller. For example, this image is 89% smaller than the Docker IO one. So on bandwidth, on many things on network, it can be very helpful to have hardened images. So mentioning the existing container that I have here, we can go in containers and see that I have NGX container running. So I just started it before the call just to have something to show. It's just like the default NGX Podman run NGX command. And this is using the Docker IO images. But from the Hummingbird extension, if I'm going to alternative, here I can clone the existing container and replace its base image with the Hummingbird one. So here, because we may have a port conflict, we keep the checked enable on stop existing container. So let's just clone it. And should be good. Yeah, a new container has been created. Let's open the new container details. And yeah, I need to start it. By default, it's not gonna auto start. So let's go back into our containers list. And if we are just filtering on NGX, we can see now that we have our old NGX container, which has been stopped. And we have our new container, which has been started. And it just replaced the base image with a new one. So that's mainly it for the Hummingbird extension. I can probably share the link of the repository if if some people want it. I will share it into the chat. If anyone has any question, feel free to ask. Then that's good.
Thanks, Axel. This looks great. Thank you. Can you show the new Engine X still works? And also a question about the size of the image. 90% reduction seems a lot. Maybe in some use cases there is some build stuff that needs to be included and that's not available.
I'm not sure how they do the reduction. From what I heard on the technical aspect is that usually they try to replace some libraries with small tree shaken alternative. Like instead of providing like all the library for one specific component, they're gonna remove everything that's not needed to only provide the thing that's required. So they really do like a deep dive work on everything that can be changed or removed to see that. But in theory, you should not see any difference. And I cannot open the new one. I don't know why it does not clone the port config. So that's why I skipped it and you caught me.
Okay. Could it be integrated better in the current image tab, or it's not possible because it's an extension?
With a current extension API, it might be a little harder because let's, for example, see the Hummingbird extension, the Hummingbird image here. Oh, I've got many things. We have in the extension API something called a badge, but those are pretty limited. Are not really extensible, but we could, for example, try to make morphing available inside the core of Podman desktop, but it's probably going to need to be per request. And if only the Hummingbird extension has a requirement on it, it would need to be very useful, I guess, to be integrated. But yeah, everything is possible.
Okay, thanks. And Brian?
Hello. Yeah, this is super cool. I had a quick question about the CVEs. I know like CVEs have like they could be based on like different severity. So when you're showing the like number difference between the containers, could you also show like the rank, or like I know it's like the CVSS like number ranking. Did you consider like showing that too? Or did I miss it?
So if we open, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I think, yeah, there is a tooltip, but it's maybe not clear enough. But here on the vulnerabilities row, the one on the left is critical, then high, then medium, then low.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to get an overview. If you want to have like a lot of details about the extension, like really knowing which vulnerability you want is about this one. So you could go into the image filter, open this one, and inside the check, as I said, the Hummingbird extension is using Gripe, and Gripe is also its own extension. And the Gripe extension is registering a image check provider. I think this is the right name, which allow us to, from the image details, to provide checks. So, for example, critical checks, high check, medium, and low, which are just mapped to the vulnerabilities that we found.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm removing everything and only showing, oh, this is low. Okay, no, because I think this is the default one. If I only want to see the high severity vulnerability for this image, I'm selecting critical, and I can see that there's 9. And you can see everything about them with some details, because from the Hummingbird view, it's really just an overview. You don't really get into much depth.
Gotcha. Very cool. Thank you.
Axel, I had a question.
Yeah.
So with the Hummingbird extension, you mentioned Gripe is being used. Is it possible for the users to just use the Gripe extension by itself?
Yes.
Can they install and use it? Go ahead.
The Gripe extension is also available in the catalog, so you can find it by searching Gripe, and it can be used standalone without the Hummingbird. But because extensions in Podman Desktop can talk to each other, the Hummingbird extension will check if Gripe is installed, If it's installed, it will ask the extension, the Gripe extension, to scan images to be able to display metrics and information to let the user do a wise choice about switching or not the images.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions for Rom has a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Currently, it will install the latest version of Gripe, but that's probably something that we could see. Let me just verify, because this is a long time since San worked on Gripe. So let me. Yeah, okay. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So by default, if you go to settings, CLI tools, if you just installed the Gripe extension, Gripe will not be installed. You will see no version detected. If you click on install, it will display like the 10 last version that exists upstream, and you will be able to select from it. But it's pretty limited because we were a bit in a rush when we did the extension. But we could imagine that just like the Podman extension, you could point to your own grip CLI and use that. But currently it's not supported, but we could open an issue and work on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other final questions for Axel before we move on to the next topic? I think we're good. Thank you so much, Axel. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks, everyone.
Václav, you're up next.
Hey, I hope you can hear me. Seems like you can.
Yes.
All right, and also I hope that you can see my screen. So please shout at me that you can see that, because I am a bit lost in the Zoom thing. So welcome. Today I will talk about the design system and accessibility updates to Podman Desktop that we implemented since my last community presentation in September. My name is Václav Vančura, and I'm a principal design engineer here on Podman Desktop, and I work also on our downstream products. What we have on the agenda for today is a couple of things. So I will explain to you why accessibility matters now more than ever. You will learn about the news in our color system and how we switched from color palettes to tokens. We now have high contrast theme support, and I will tell you about the dialog UX refresh that we made. There are also some news from the UI component modernization, and I will show you how Storybook helped us during the design system works, and also what's coming next. What you will see is 8 months of work and more than 70 PRs. This is, of course, teamwork, and I would like to thank my coworkers who helped me to get where we are now. So let me talk first about why accessibility is important. I actually believe that the technology world is getting less accessible, not more. But that's not just a technical problem. It's that what I see is that organizations don't take accessibility seriously, because nobody who cannot use the product for one or another reason is usually in the room when priorities get decided. Here is the article. Let me open that. I will post the link in the chat soon. So, and it will be also ready in the YouTube description as a link. Christopher Phillips writes that we keep calling this a knowledge problem or tooling problem when it's neither of them, as I think. I am afraid that, let me highlight this here, I'm afraid that the real issue is deeper. The disability rights movement has been saying this for decades, that access is not something you add at the end of the work and click the checkbox. It needs to be deeply integrated. Philips tell us, and let me cite, that consider what it would look like to do digital accessibility work in a world that no longer tolerates inaccessibility. I feel like actually AI makes it easier to build UIs, but no question about that. But it does not make it easier to build UIs that work for everyone. Code generators produce things that look right on the screen, but break the moment a screen reader touches them or somebody tries to navigate without a mouse or a pointing device. Well, the speed of AI software development lifecycle actually works against AI accessibility, as I think. What you and I push something in 20 minutes, that's what we do. But spending an hour on focus management honestly feels unreasonable. Let me switch back to the presentation. So the WebAIM data, that's the website I showed you, shows this. So more awareness, more tooling, more people specializing in this, and somehow the tech got less accessible. Something is generating inaccessible output faster than accessibility education can keep up. So Phillips in this article claims that the problem is tolerance. Organizations set lower priorities because the people it hurts aren't visible to them, but I believe AI actually makes it even easier to tolerate. You, as the developer, and I potentially didn't even write the inaccessible code that is not on the purpose, the machine did. So the responsibility feels even blurrier. More people need accessible software today, not fewer. The World Health Organization estimates that around 1.3 billion people worldwide live with a significant disability. That's roughly 16% of global population. And as populations age, this number will go up. The people who need this work aren't disappearing. There will be more people every year. And then there is the legal pressure, and it's increasing too, like ADA lawsuits, the European Accessibility Act. And frankly, the distance between what the law requires and what websites and applications actually do keeps getting bigger. Today, I will show you how we at Podman Desktop are trying to fix this and how we do that for our downstream products, which is Red Hat Build of Podman Desktop and Kden. We are not claiming that we are perfect, but we would like to show the intent, and we are getting somewhere, that's for sure. This is ongoing work, and we are not stopping. Everything I will show you today was built with accessibility considered from the start, not patched in after somebody files a bug. We treat accessibility the same way as security. It's continuous work, not a one-time fix. In September, I showed you the raw color palette work. A lot has improved since then. The next 3 slides will show the evolution from something like, oh, we have colors to now we have a proper design token system. We needed a token-based system because Podman Desktop is the upstream for branded downstream products. Hard-coded colors meant downstream had to patch components individually. And the goal was to override a few root level tokens, get a fully rebranded UI. Upstream Podman Desktop uses purple violet. As you know, the downstream Red Hat products need Red Hat branding. Before the token system, a downstream build would need to find and replace hard-coded colors across hundreds of components. We had a script, that's for sure, but it was fragile, it was error-prone, and created a permanent maintenance burden on every upstream merge. With the accent color ramp system that's using accent 1 and accent 2 tokens, the downstream products override just a couple of properties at the root level, and the entire UI rethemes itself. So there are no component level patches needed. Here is how we implemented the actual ramp mechanism. So accent 1 and accent 2 are the brand identity layer. Upstream uses violet, purple, downstream overrides that at the root, and every button, every link, focus ring, and progress bar follows automatically. The Fluent API was a direct result of team feedback from Jeff and Floran. The original PR was rewritten from scratch, and it was based on their reviews. So color registry, which is this thing, it's how this worked and how this is working now. It uses the Fluent API. The color palette helper with the optional with alpha is used for transparent colors. And with dark, with light, with HC dark and HC light are here for theme-specific definitions. There is a clear separation. So color palette helper handles colors and potential alpha, and color builder handles theme assembly. We went through it complete component by component, which is exactly as fancy as it sounds. Each PR was a small and very easy to review thing, touching just a couple of files. The pattern was something like, first, find a raw color. Second was find or create a semantic token. Replaced was the third thing, and fourth thing, testing for themes. This is what makes high contrast themes actually work. You cannot have high contrast themes if half of your UI uses hard-coded colors. Theme changes now propagate everywhere automatically, and there are no more hunting for hard-coded text whites or whatever BG black values. Besides our light and dark themes, we now have 2 new high contrast themes too. Every token has defined four themes, colors for 4 of them. It looks like VS Code, and that's actually on purpose. Users who know VS Code themes feel really at home here. So the high contrast themes are not just dark, but a bit darker and contrast to the max. HC light and HC dark, how we call them high contrast light, uses pure white backgrounds with dark high contrast borders, and then the high contrast dark uses pure black with light elements. But a nice thing now is that some UI components also have special treatment, and I will show you these components later. It was a team effort, I need to say, and thanks to the whole team who helped me to get here. Vladislav, who built a high contrast color registry support, enum values, and color overrides. Charlie added light dark mode test. Simon declared the theme interface with Zod. That's very helpful. And I refined colors and added storybook high contrast themes. So here are the themes: the light high contrast theme and the dark high contrast theme. You can select them here in preferences. There are 4 themes now, and the system that respects whatever is set in the system. You know, it's not just making this super contrast, as I said. It's more work with contrast, with clear separation, and so on. And these are not just for accessibility. They are also for people who simply prefer higher contrast for readability, and I personally use them almost all the time. Let me talk about dialogues quickly and their buttons. So this is a usability problem, not just aesthetics. So when you see a dialogue like this with confirmation, with yes and no buttons, you have to read the entire dialogue body to understand what you're agreeing to. With destructive actions like deleting a container, that would be even dangerous. The goal is a user should understand the action from the title alone, and the primary buttons should name the action. So this applies to generic things like OK, cancel, yes and no buttons, and titles like confirmation that tell you what you are confirming. We also fixed in this inconsistent button ordering across different dialogues and no clear indication of destructive versus safe actions. There is also one thing about ellipses. This is a small touch, but it shows our attention to detail. So loading with a space and 3 dots looked really sloppy, and we fixed all of these things. The with confirmation utility is the technical heart of all of that. Instead of each dialog hard-coding button labels, the utility extracts the verb from the action string and capitalizes that. So something like delete container foo produces a delete button automatically. The framework enforces that, so we are not betting on everyone remembering what to write. So this is what we have here. Obviously, I cannot show the link here on Zoom, but I have it in this tab. And again, I will show you where it is in the chat and on the YouTube description. So what you might know or might not know is that here in Podman desktop repo, we have something called code guidelines MD file. And at the very end of that, there is a new section, which is called Dialog Language Guide. So it shows how titles describe the action, delete container and not confirmation, primary button, how it should match the verb delete, not okay or yes, destructive actions that use danger stylings, those are the red buttons, and also explains consistent button order throughout the app. So the fact that the action delete container foo automatically produces button delete, and all of that is backwards compatible. So the callers without options fall back to confirmation like before. Something about this red button, the cancel button is now, this one, cancel, is now always available as the escape. More than 30 dialogues were updated across the whole app. Confirmation and action dialogues have consistent titles now and buttons. Dialogues have consistent titles, messages, and buttons. Destructive dialogues use action-oriented titles for all delete and remove flows, and the button ordering is fixed to be the same across all dialogues. It was really tedious work, but it was something what really matters the most. Every dialogue in the app was audited and updated, and the result is that opening any dialogue in Podman Desktop now follows the same language pattern. The work on the dialogues is not just the cleanup, but a standard for all future dialogues. The guideline, here the link, and what I showed you on GitHub is really crucial. Without it, new PRs would slowly drift back to OK and confirmation buttons. And by writing the patterns here in code guidelines, we give every contributor and potentially every AI agent the rules to follow. Let me show you the recent works on the UI components. The button component is the most substantial part of that. Color tokens, accessibility, motion preferences, general look, all of that. When an icon button is missing ARIA label, on-mount warns you in development before it makes it to the production. Linear progress was replaced hard-coded colors with color registry tokens. Linear progress replaced markup with div-based structure. And the tooltip keyboard focus fix X addresses WCAG minimum accessibility standard. Before this, keyboard-only users couldn't reach tooltips at all. In Spinner, we fix incorrect ARIA role and attributes, and decoratives SVG is now hidden from screen readers. I will show you now Storybook here. So we have Storybook on our website. You might know that, that's in documentation. And it contains all our components, but it doesn't contain all new features that we have in the project. So for that, let me show you something what you have when you clone the repo and start pnpm Storybook dev. What you have here is a list of components that we have now in Storybook. And that's like something like button, progress bar, linear progress, and all these things. So what you see here is the button. And with all the documentation about buttons and all kinds of or types, states of the button. You can also see things like how it looks with icons, how it looks with disabled states, and so on and so forth. What is interesting here is that you can also switch the theme to, let's say, dark. Now you have dark buttons, or high contrast light and high contrast dark. It also applies to everything in other components, like progress bar. Let me find that quickly. So progress bar. So we have this new progress bar that has all kinds of states. At the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that making the theme high contrast is not just about making it increase the contrast, but there are some components that have special treatments. So let me switch from light and dark to something like HC light, and you will see that this is now not only more contrast, but it also shows much more visibly for people who need that or prefer that, what is the progress bar. And it applies to all the new components that we have. So very quickly, let me show you, let's switch to the dark, and let me show you linear progress. That's this thing. Or a tooltip, which is interesting. We have a new tooltip. Let me show you a couple of examples of the tooltip: left, right, center, stuff like that. And a spinner, which I already mentioned a couple of times today. So let me go back to the presentation. So this is, again, teamwork. So let me thank my coworkers. Tim reviewed all the work together with Masha, Floran, Simon, and Axel. Vladislav migrated tooltip to floating UI. Marcel refactored to Svelte 5. Simon did most of the work for the spinner, fixed ARIA roles, made decorative SVG hidden from screen readers, because the spinner is just a decorative thing. Screen readers don't need to know about that. He also added the labor property and added prefers reduced motion support. Jiří fixed the nasty rotation bug in Docker compatibility page, and I designed and implemented button, progress bar, linear progress tooltip, and the spinner. Yeah.
Sorry. I know before we move on, I just wanted to take a pause and see if anybody had questions up till now, what was mentioned, so before Václav can move ahead. Just checking if there were questions.
I can use the time to drink.
I don't see anything in chat. All right, we can move ahead. Thanks, Václav.
Please, if you have any questions, please always stop me, because I cannot see the chat or anything here. This is the Zoom screen share, and it's slightly not a good UX, So all of these things, all of these changes are great for accessibility. Keyboard focus on the tooltip was really important. So tooltips now appear on keyboard focus, not just mouse hover. Before this fix, if you navigated Podman desktop with tab, you could never see the tooltip content. It's a basic failure for a pattern that shows up everywhere. So we corrected spinner roles and added spinner ARIA fixes, removed things like duplicated ARIA labels, attributes, and troubleshooting components. Having two ARIA labels actually can confuse screen readers a lot, and more ARIA labels is not necessarily better. Warning message and deployed to Pod2Cube had custom ARIA label values as well, and they were fighting what the native alert role was already doing. And thanks for Priyansh for the fix. Thanks for Evgen, who added proper labels to system overview elements for screen reader navigation. And for users with vestibular disorders, screen animation can cause vertigo and nausea. So disorientation that lasts after the app is closed is also a big risk. So this is where we add the reduced motion thing. This isn't a preference or an aesthetic thing, it's the biology. Our linear progress and spinner components now respect the OS level reduced motion setting. And let me explain very quickly how it works. So instead of sliding a motion, animation, stuff like that, we just use simple fades or just switch the views, the states. So the state changes are still communicated, but just without the parts that can cause problems to some people. So this is the OS setting. You can change it in OS settings system-wide, and users will need that configure it once and expect that all applications respect that. In our storybook, it's not just a design tool. Now, it's a cornerstone of everything what we do for the design system. We now have the accessibility testing add-on with X core engine integrated. The automated WCAG tests are now visible directly in Storybook UI panel. I will show you where. So let's say here the basic. You can have this panel here. Let me make it a bit bigger. So you can see accessibility. There are no violations, and there are 13 passes. So you can check all these components from here. This really helps to catch violations during component developers. The theme switcher, which I showed you as well, shows these 4 themes now, and developers can instantly preview components in any theme. Accessibility documentation, as what you can see here in the docs, is also available. So, for instance, here, how to use this. The spinner stories include accessibility guidelines and usage notes, and it applies to all our new components. So auto-generate, we also have a new thing, auto-generated theme CS. With plugin watches color registry TS and Tailwind color palette JSON changes, and reruns storybook CSS, rebuilds the CSS, and triggers full reload, which is especially good for color changes, so they appear immediately during development. The auto regeneration is also a big win for people. So before this, if you change a color token in the registry, you had to manually rebuild the CSS and restart Storybook. It crashed a lot. So now it's automatic. Edit a color save, Storybook reloads, and you see the new value. The accessibility add-on runs Xcore on every story, so you can see the WCAG violations as you develop, not after you ship into production. In Storybook, we have new and significantly expanded stories. The goal is that every component in packages UI has stories now, showing all size, states, theme variations, and the stories also serve as documentation, as you saw. When a developer needs to use a button, they look at the stories first and understand what they need to do. The update from Storybook 8 to 10 gave us better 5 support and performance. And thanks to Floran, who updated Storybook from 8 to 9 and then 10, and also built the critical infrastructure. And thanks to Simon for manual Storybook update when dependable failed, and for adding Chokidar watcher fix. And here are the new developer tools built to accelerate design system work. Those are the skills, Claude Code skills, or whatever used for AI, that should help you. There are 4 of them. The first is the screenshot capture in 4 themes, automated skill that captures high DPI screenshots of any story from Storybook in light, dark, high contrast light, and high contrast dark. The video recording skill of component animations that captures MP4s of animated stories across all themes. A component modernization workflow, that the skill that helps with the Storybook first modernization process, and reload patches for faster Storybook development iteration. The screenshot skill is particularly useful for PR reviews because instead of manually switching themes and taking screenshots, one command produces 4 high DPI images in 4 themes. The component modernization skill enforces our workflow, which means first write stories and then modernize the component. We also have new full color tray icons for Windows and Linux, not on macOS. The problem was that template icons that are designed for macOS menu bar auto coloring were used on Windows and Linux. And these icons there appear washed out. The fix was that Windows and Linux now use full color icons. macOS doesn't change that. macOS continues to use template icons as before. All states are covered, initialized, ready, updating all these animated states. It was a nice win, and actually, a funny thing is that the ticket that was there for that 980 was open since 2022. Now it's fixed. So we didn't just change the colors and button styles. We backed everything with comprehensive tests. There are 70 tests just for color builder alone, 40 new accessibility tests for button, and it's not just a cosmetic work. It's a big investment in our design system. Storybook is the best way to explore what's available in our design system. You can check that on the website, or you can run it from the repo. It allows you slightly more things than the website version. And I would like to invite you to this epic. Also, I will paste the link to the chat and to YouTube. So we would like to welcome you to see what we are up to. And if you would like to help, that would be great. We now have the dialogue language guide, which I showed you as well. I would like to thank a couple of people again. So Masha for all the help with the accent colors and component improvements. Vladislav, who did the heavy lifting on making high contrast themes actually work in the registry. Simon, a lot of help with the Spinner Storybook updates, tooltip migration. Vladimir, who removed duplicate area labels, built the light dark test suite for theme switching. Floran for Storybook updates. He was really great in reviewing, fast reviewing of the PRs. And his feedback along with Jeff's feedback drove the Fluent API rewrite. Priyansh will drop the custom area values. Evgen will edit area labels for system overview elements for screen reader navigation. Jeff, who was reviewer for whose feedback was on the original PR on Calibre, led to a cleaner architecture. Tim, who was reviewer on so many things like dialogue language guide, button redesign, progress bar, linear progress, modernizations, and he is basically a gatekeeper for all component modernization work. And I would like especially thank Charlie, who is a reviewer on everything related to accessibility, and he helps me so much. So, what is coming next? We will continue with the token migration. There are still some remaining hard-coded colors in the code base. There are more component modernizations like the dialog, if I'm not mistaken, the component itself is the next target. And it's particularly important because every other dialog improvement we made is built on top of the current dialog. Modernizing it will make all these dialogues better. The CI integration of accessibility testing is the next major infrastructure piece we would like to do. It will allow us to catch WCAG regressions before we merge, not after. We will expand Storybook to cover more components, most probably also renderer components. Currently, it's limited only to packages UI. We would like to take a look at automated accessibility tests, regression tests directly in CI, which means that Xcore can run in CI, not just locally. Let me say something about the last point here, the don't tolerate inaccessibility. At the beginning, I mentioned the WebAIM numbers, 56 accessibility errors per average on every homepage, and it's getting worse, not better. I talk about how AI makes it easier than ever to ship inaccessible code, and how organizations tolerate it because the people it hurts stay invisible to them. 70 PRs won't fix the taxing, but they fix our corner of it. We will make sure that the dialogues have proper titles, that our spinners don't lie to screen readers, and our progress bars don't make somebody physically sick. Those are small, specific, and totally not fancy stuff things. So the moment you stop doing that, the defaults win, and the defaults are not accessible. So we keep going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah. Awesome presentation. Thanks a lot. Any questions for Václav before we move on? All right. We have a couple of things, just in updates. Let me quickly share my screen. Before we wind up our meeting. Oops. Right. So we do have 1.27.2 out right now. It's a bug fix release. Take a look, see if we can have issues or contributions towards that. 128.0 is coming up in mid-June. And we're always looking for demos for use cases that you are using with Podman Desktop, how you're using it, what can be better. We're always able to listen to that. So please do put your issues onto the repos. I see Olu, Nathan, Rom as contributors. If you all have any suggestions for the community meeting, please do let us know. And again, thank you for being here. Thanks, Rom. And our next community meeting is on June 25th, 9 to 10 a.m. EST, 2 to 3 p.m. UTC. We do have our community meetings every fourth Thursday of the month. The issue on the community repo is updated with the new topics. If you all have topics that you want to discuss or questions that you would like to get answered, please do post into the issues. We would be able to answer them here or on the issue itself. With that, anybody else wants to raise any other points? All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Hoping to see everybody next month. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye bye.